Members of the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus came together this week for one of the few times since the COVID pandemic began. The caucus began 18 years ago as a bridge between Israeli lawmakers and Christian groups.
The Knesset Christian Allies Caucus has really been a beacon to the Christian world that the state of Israel wants to work with the Christian supporters of Israel, wants to develop cooperation, and it was really what started this whole movement of faith-based diplomacy, which is today the most important weapon we have in our diplomatic arsenal.
Director Josh Reinstein explains that this approach, based on common biblical values, is making a global impact.
Faith-based diplomacy is growing in leaps and bounds. We're seeing it in Latin America, we're seeing it in Asia, we're seeing it in Eastern Europe, and of course in Africa. Incredible support coming out of our network. We now have 50 Israel Allies Caucuses in countries around the world, 1,200 legislators in our network, and that number is just going to go up and up as faith-based diplomacy spreads around the world.
The 8 political parties making up Israel's current coalition government, as well as members of the operation, are represented in the caucus.
I have to continue strengthening these relations. It's very important for us to find even more friends like that and to fight together for the better future of the state of Israel, of the Holy Land, and of the ties between us, Jews and Israelis, and Christian friends all around the world.
Reinstein credits evangelical Christian support for leading to the move of the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. And now the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus has a sister group in the U.S. Congress.
You know, in the States, AIPAC has been successful at bringing together people who would not sit down together otherwise. I think that the Christian Allies Caucus is kind of trying to do the same thing, but maybe on a different level. And so I think it's critically important that we support the work because that's from Israel.
I keep telling people around the world that even the existence of such a caucus is a miracle of the newborn state of Israel.
Jürgen Buehler of the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem believes the caucus can help Israel both face growing threats and take advantage of global opportunities.
I believe there's still much to do for the caucus. You see anti-Semitism rising all over the world. That means there needs to be a voice which challenges that. I think the caucus is one of those voices who can do that. And also there's a new dynamic around the world where governments are thinking to move their embassy to Jerusalem, where they're thinking to change their policies towards the state of Israel. And I think here the caucus is an ideal partner for governments all over the world to rethink their ties to Israel and to strengthen their ties.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Knesset, Jerusalem.